Hey band geeks! Today we're going to be talking about everybody's favorite thing to do, sight reading! Sight reading is when somebody plops a piece of music in front of you that you've never seen before and you have to play it. This happens all the time in auditions, ensembles, when your teacher gives you a piece of music. There are tons of situations where sight reading can benefit your playing. If you're not good at sight reading, or you don't feel confident in your sight reading abilities, what is the best way to get better? The same way you get better at anything you're not good at is practicing. So how do you practice sight reading? There are three basic things you want to look for when you've never seen a piece of music, and you want to notice the time signature, the key signature, and the tempo. The time signature is important because that's what you're basically going to be feeling the piece in. It's easy when you have something in 4/4, just 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a little more difficult when you get something that's not as common, like 6/8, or 12/8, or 3/8, 5/8, or 7/8, or 3/2, 13/16. So you want to count just a couple measures in your head just to get the feeling. So if it's in 6/8, you're thinking 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2 and a. So you don't just jump right into the piece, see eighth notes, and play it out of tempo. With the key signature, that's where knowing your scales will actually help you out immensely. Let's say the piece you're playing is in E major. You have 4 sharps, and with clarinets you have some weird pinky key stuff going on. So knowing your E major scale forwards, backwards, and in the arpeggios, if you have a passage of 16th notes and it's all stepwise in a scale, your pinkies will automatically hit the right keys as long as your E major scale is memorized. And with tempo gets a little tricky because if something is really fast, like allegro or quarter note equals 120, it can be difficult to play 16th note passages really fast. It can also be difficult to keep the tempo when something is really slow and you have, say, a whole note. That whole note might feel like it takes forever, so you might want to feel like you want to rush through it, be like, oh, the judges don't really want to hear me hold out an E for 4 beats. They do. And you want to keep the beat as steady as possible even if you play a wrong note. The ability to keep going will show the judges that you would be an asset to their ensemble because you can keep going and you can keep playing with a steady beat. Even though you missed a note, you can keep going. And if you're in an ensemble and the piece is really fast and you're going at tempo but you can't quite play the 16th note runs, a good way to stick together instead of like honing in and playing every single note is to play the downbeats until you get to a passage that you can actually play. That's a better way of staying together instead of playing a whole slew of wrong notes or like slowing your tempo down so that you can get all the notes and then falling behind where everybody is. So you can incorporate sight reading into your daily practice session, and I highly recommend this even if it's only for 5 minutes at the end, or beginning, or middle of your practice session. You don't want to be sight reading at the end of your practice session when your brain is tired. You kind of want to like incorporate it somewhere in the middle where it's like, okay, I just played my scales and etudes and I'm all warmed up. I'm going to sight read something really quick for a few minutes and then I'm going to go into my repertoire. You want to keep your brain and fingers fresh because ending a practice session with sight reading can actually get really frustrating really fast. You want to end on a good note. So even 5 minutes of sight reading in your practice session will yield improvements. Also, if you're sight reading things that are a little bit on the hard side, when it comes to sight reading in real life, you'll either be used to the difficulty or it might even be easy. So set the bar really high. You can sight read easy stuff too. The point is just to sight read. And in your practice session, this is a really good time to practice the whole keep your eyes ahead of your fingers thing because it doesn't matter if you mess up in your practice session. When you keep your eyes ahead of your fingers, what I mean by that is as you're playing, sort of keep your eye on the next group of notes that's coming up so that you're prepared for the music, so that you're not thrown off by all of a sudden there's an accidental and you're not quite ready for it and you play a wrong note. So, fun ways to sight read? If there is one? There are 2 fun ways to sight read that I have found, and one is to find a friend grab a duet, it doesn't even have to be for your instrument, and have a sight reading party. Because what's more fun than having a sight reading party? Someone can bring the chips, someone else can bring the soda, just don't eat it before you play because that's gross, save it for after. Another thing you can do if you can't find a friend who wants to sight read with you is to use this amazing resource called imslp.org. imslp.org is an awesome website. They have complete scores, complete parts. I don't want to say every symphony, but pretty much every symphony. And it's free. Pick a symphony, because I've done this before. So let's say you want to sight read First Clarinet on Beethoven 4. Awesome choice. Thank you very much. You go to the site, you find the music, you find the part, you pull up the part, and then you turn on Spotify or YouTube or whatever, you find a professional orchestra, and you sight read with that professional orchestra. This keeps you in a steady tempo. It's really obvious if you miss a note, and it actually keeps your intonation in check as well. So why are sight reading skills important? Some sight reading wins that I've had was that, well, recently I just sight read the opera Carmen with an orchestra for their dress rehearsal. I was in a chamber group, and we had just gotten our music. We were all able to sit down and sight read well enough so that we could start working on it right away. Being able to sight read is also really important if you're a freelance musician and you get called the morning of an orchestra rehearsal and the music is on your stand when you get there and you have to be able to play it. I've also had some sight reading fails. There's, I don't like to talk about them very much. I mentioned this once where I was talking about being prepared for ensembles. I was playing bass clarinet on Till Eulenspiegel, and I was not aware that there was a very exposed bass clarinet solo. I lost count. I came in the wrong spot, and it sucked. I was also sight reading an opera, Otello, to be exact. At one point, the clarinet all of a sudden goes into clarinet in C, so I had to sight transpose, and it was not pretty. So leave a comment if I missed anything or if you do anything different. I am always all ears whenever someone has a suggestion or a tip or a story. I love hearing your stories. Thanks for watching, and go practice your sight reading.